page 50, we're going to start with just normal elementary school division, okay? Because there's some skills within this that some of us don't do right that hurt you when you get down here to the other stuff. So we're going to take 59, and we're going to divide that into 101,952, okay? Not nearly as bad as it looks. A life skill that we need here. So I need to know how many times 59, well, it doesn't go into 10, but it can go into 101 how many times? 1. So I put that 1, you don't just put it willy-nilly anywhere up at the top. You put it above the ones place right there. So 1 times 59 is 59. Then we subtract, right? 101 minus 59 gives me what? 42. So this gives me 42, and I bring down that 9, right? So now I have to figure out how many times 59 goes into 429. So I don't want a ton of guessing and checking scratch work all over the place. And you know it really stinks when you pick the wrong number and then you got to erase and pick another one, right? But you can kind of estimate most of the time just to see what happens. Let's pretend like that's 60. How many times would 60 go into 429? 7, right? And it's pretty close to 420 because it'd be 420, but 60 is actually a little bit more than that, so I feel like I'm okay with that estimation, and we can go with 7. But then I have to multiply the real number, right? So 7 times 9 is 63, so 3, carry my 6. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 6 is what? 40, yeah, 41, so I get 413. And then I subtract. And when I subtract, I get 160, or I get 16 there, and then I bring down my 5, so that gives me 165. So then that 59, or my 60, goes into 165 how many times? Twice, right? So 2 times, well, what's 2 times 60? 120, and then I would subtract how much? 2, so that really leaves me with 118. Okay, so then when I subtract that, I'm really just subtracting the 65 and the 18. So I can take 65, subtract 20, and do what? Add 2 back. So 65 minus 20 is 45, add 2 back, and I get 47. And then I bring down my 2. Now, if I estimate with 60, how many times would 60 go into 472? 7 times. But if I'm actually using 59, do you think 8 might work? Because remember, we're estimating, so it's a little bit off. But 8 times 60 gives me to 480, but how much would I subtract? If I do 8 times 8, so I end up with 472. So this is 8. 472. But see how there wasn't a whole bunch of guessing and checking? I mean, if you need to, sometimes you might need to, but not on every single thing. And sometimes you get lucky with your first, thought of what the answer is, and sometimes you don't. But the answer is 1728. We all good with that? All right, you do number 2. Crud. Oh, darn. Do we all at least get here? So is my answer 42 with the remainder? No. Okay? And I got a lot of that last period, and if that's what you're thinking, the answer is no. Here's one of the reasons you need to make sure you are lining this stuff up correctly. Because when you get here, you hadn't put anything in here yet, right? And when you subtract this out, yes, you get 0. And then you bring your 7 down, right? 13 doesn't go into 7. Does that mean you're just like done? No. How many times does 13 go into 7? 0 times. 0 times. See, I've got them all filled in now. 0 times 13 is, well, 0. That's no big surprise. And you get 7 as a remainder. Make sense? So then my answer is 420. And I'm not going to put remainder of 7. What do I put? 7 over 13. And this would be a time where a mixed number would be completely appropriate. I would not make you change that to an improper fraction at this point unless we needed to, because the whole point of not making them into mixed numbers in the other times is so that you can just stop with your improper fraction. Here, that's what we have. Okay, does that make sense? We all good? We can do this, right? Okay. All right, so let's look at number 3. Now we're going to do this with polynomials, which looks terrible when you look at it and you see somebody else's work, but it's really not that bad at all. So you have two pieces here. This is your divisor, because it's what you're dividing by. This is your dividend. So x minus 2 divides into x cubed plus 4x squared minus 16x plus 8. Okay? So when you do this, does that negative 2 mean anything when I start? No, I don't have to worry about that when I'm figuring out what to put on the top here. I just look at x and this first term here. So if I divide x into x cubed, what do I get? X squared. So I put that above the x squared term here. And then I multiply just like you did on the other divisions. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times a negative 2 is negative 2x squared. And then here's the part where the first set of mistakes start to happen, is that now I'm subtracting, right? So you're subtracting everything, so you should go through and change the signs on each term, and then you're really just combining them. Does that make sense? Because signs are what can be your worst enemy in a lot of things. Oh, bless you. Okay, so these zero out. This gives me 6x squared. Then I bring down my minus 16x. Okay, everybody good with that? All right, so then x goes into 6x squared. How many times? Well, I'd have to, when I divide it, it's 6 what? X. Okay, so 6x times x is 6x squared. 6x times a negative 2 is negative 12x. But I add, so I'm going to change my signs on both. And I get negative 4x. Bring them. Then x goes into negative 4x. How many times? Minus 4 times. So that I multiply minus 4 times x, I get negative 4x plus 8. Wait, on what? Well, not when I multiply. I'm just multiplying. Then I go through and change my signs. Does that make sense? You have to multiply and get what you get. Negative 4 times negative 2 is a positive 8. Then because I'm subtracting, I change my signs before I combine them. Does that make sense? Okay. And then when I do combine this, it all zeroes out, so that's good. So that means my answer is x squared plus 6x minus 4. Everybody okay with that? Any questions? All right, we're going to do one more together, and then I'm going to have you do one. So x plus 4 divides into 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus 37x plus 12. So x divides into 3x cubed, and what do I get? 3x squared. So I put it above the x squared term, 3x squared. 3x squared times x is 3x cubed. Squared times 4 is a positive 12x squared. Then I go through and change my signs because I'm subtracting. This zeroes out. This gives me a negative 10x squared. Bring down my negative 37x. So when I divide this in here, you got to pay attention to the signs. This is positive and this is negative, which means this is going to be a negative 10x there. So then this gives me negative 10x squared minus 40x. I go through and I change my signs. This zeroes out. This gives me a positive 3x. Bring down my 12. Then x goes into 3x, positive 3 times. That gives me 3x plus 12. Then because I'm subtracting, I change my signs. And that zeroes out. which means my answer is 3x squared minus 10x plus 3. We all good? Questions? Review, right? Okay, you do number 5 on your own. I'm going to work it up here while you're working, but don't look at mine, right? You just don't just copy down what I'm doing. We'll make sure we agree in the end. Okay. Yeah, 19. 19. Good. Good, we agree? Everybody good over here? Yes. Okay. So again, just like with a lot of what we do, the signs can be your worst enemy. And one of the most common mistakes here is not making that a negative x. But that's negative there, so you got to make sure your signs work. And that's why you want to, don't think about the fact that you're going to subtract as you're multiplying this back. Multiply it, write down what it is, then go through and change your signs. Because even if you can feel like you can do all that stuff at the same time, you may be capable of that, but there's times where you're going to get that mixed up or backwards, and just the more consistent you are, the better off you are. We good? All right, we're going to do the next one together, even though I think you can handle it. It's a little bit different, but it's really not that big of a deal. My divisor is x squared plus 8, and it divides into x to the 4th plus 3x cubed plus 4x squared minus 24x minus 32. Oh, crap. What did I do? Thank you. Plus 24x. Yeah. Okay, so this has an x squared instead of an x that we're dividing in. No big deal. So x squared divides into x to the 4th, and I get what? X squared. So I put it above my x squared term over here, right? So x squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times 8 is a positive 8x squared that I have to put underneath the x squared term, which means in here I have plus 0x cubed. All right, fill that in so that you don't do something weird. You got to make sure they line up correctly. Then I change my signs. And the x to the 4th zeroes out. The negative 0x cubed really does nothing. It just brings this 3x cubed down. And this becomes minus 4x squared. And then I have to bring down the positive 24x. Everybody with me? So x squared goes into 3x cubed, and what do I get? 3x. It is a positive 3x. So this gives me 3x cubed. Then 3x times 8 is a positive 24x. This doesn't have a term here, so that's plus 0x squared. Fill it in so you don't do anything weird. Then you change your signs. The x cubes zero out. Negative 4x squared minus 0x squared is negative 4x squared. 24x and negative 24x, this zeroes out. And then I bring down my negative 32. So So x squared goes into negative 4x squared, and I get what? Negative 4. So that gives me negative 4x squared. And negative 4 times 8 is a negative 32. So again, you have plus 0x here. I change my signs. And I get 0. That's nice. Which means my answer in the end is x squared plus 3x minus 4. Okay. Oh. Everybody good with that? Any questions at all? Ask me a question if you got one. Okay. All right. This will change. There we go. So we're going to do 7 together. So I'm going to take x plus 1, and it's going to divide into 3x cubed plus 7x squared plus 2x plus 3. Right? So x goes into 3x squared. I'm sorry, x goes into 3x cubed, 3x squared times. So that gives me 3x cubed plus 3x squared. Change my signs. And this zeroes out. This gives me a positive 4x squared plus 2x once I bring that down. So this will be a positive 4x. 4x squared plus 4x. I change my signs. This becomes a negative 2x plus 3. Bring down my 3. X goes into negative 2x minus 2 times. So I get negative 2x, and negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. I change my signs. Does this zero out? Nope, I get 5. Right? Which doesn't necessarily mean I did anything wrong. Doesn't mean I did everything right either, but doesn't necessarily mean I'm wrong. So my answer is 3x squared plus 4x minus 2, then what? Plus 5 over x plus 1. That is my answer. Okay, everybody good? Any questions at all? All right, you do number 8. All right, do we agree? Yes, does anybody have any questions? Ask me questions if you got them. You probably won't be the only one that has that question, but if you're not brave enough to speak, then I'm just moving on. All right, number 9, we're gonna do number 9 together. Just because the problem is longer or has more stuff in it does not necessarily mean that it's more difficult. We've got x squared minus x minus 5 divides into x to the 4th minus 5x cubed plus x squared plus 20x minus 10. So x squared, and not instead of x, doesn't really matter, same process. X squared divides into x to the fourth, and you're left with x squared. You put it over the x squared term. X squared times x squared is x to the fourth minus x cubed minus 5x squared. Then you go through and change your signs. The x to the fourth zeroes out. This gives you negative 4x cubed plus 6x squared, and you bring down the 20x. Then x squared divides into negative 4x cubed. That gives you a negative 4x. So that when you multiply it back, you get negative 4x cubed plus 4x plus 20x. Is that right? Dang it, what did I do? 4x squared, thank you. I knew it. Everything else is correct there, right? Okay, good. Last period, I said I'll bring, I think I need to like hang my degree on the wall as proof to you and me that I actually know what I'm doing. So these zero out. This gives me 2x squared plus, what does this become? 0x. And then I bring down that minus 10. So x squared goes into 2x squared plus 2. So this gives me 2x squared minus 2x plus 10. No. Minus 10. Oh, my Lord. Okay, I'm on board. Minus 10. Then I go through and change my signs, minus, plus, plus. So that leaves me with this zeroes out. This gives me 2x, and that zeroes out. So 2x is my remainder, which means my answer is x to the fourth minus 4x plus 2. Oh, my gosh. Where am I getting that from? Okay. Oh. Someone at the door. Well, good. Maybe I need to be interrupted and reset my brain. X squared minus 4x plus 2 plus 2x over x squared minus x minus 5. We good? Any questions? Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. Let's look at, so there's certain things that even when you understand what you're doing, the things that cause you to make mistakes along the way when you're not paying attention to them. Signs, first of all, when you should have that 0x in there, and when there's missing powers in your dividend here. Okay, so when I go to set this one up, I've got x minus 8, and that's going to divide into this right here. But I start with x to the fourth. I don't have all of the exponents represented, so I have to have them represented in here. This x to the fourth, and then there is no x cubed term, so this needs to be plus 0x cubed minus 64x squared plus 9x minus 80. Okay. Everybody okay with all that? Okay. So now we divide. X goes into x to the fourth, x cubed times, and see if I didn't have that there, I wouldn't have anywhere to write that, and then it throws everything off. X cubed times x is x to the fourth minus 8x cubed. Go through and change my signs. So this zeroes out, and this gives me 8x cubed minus 64x squared, because I've got to bring that down. X goes into 8x cubed, positive 8x squared times. This is 8x cubed minus 64x squared. Okay. So I change my signs. Well, this zeroes out, and so does this, right? This just becomes 0, but I got to bring down my 9x. How many times does x, oh wait, I jumped ahead of myself there. When that zeroes out, okay, how many times does x minus 8 go into 0? 0 times. So I have a 0x here. Then 0x times all of that is 0, right? And then I bring down my 9x. Jumped ahead of myself there. And I also have to bring down my 80. So how many times does x go into 9x? 9 times. Plus 9. So that gives me 9x minus 72. I go through and change my signs, and I get a -8 there. Now, that 0x I put up at the top there, do I actually write it as my answer? No. But it fills in all my spots up there, right? That's an important process there. So I get x cubed in the end, x cubed plus 8x squared. I do not have to write that 0x. Plus 9, and then that's -8. So that becomes minus 8 over x minus 8. Can I cancel these 8s out? No. I better never see anything like that ever, ever. Okay, we good? Any questions at all? All right, you work on the last one. Are we good? Do we agree? Any questions at all? Awesome. All right, so go ahead and glue this in so you're not doing them all at the last minute because we got some time to work. Just remember, stuff like this looks way worse than it is. And if it becomes all difficult and confusing, that's because you're missing a step somewhere. You're not putting in your zeroed terms, or you're missing your signs, or whatever. But this is something that you could like go wow people at parties with your skills, like look what I can do, because it looks so hard, but it's really not. You don't have to tell them that, okay? And I'd be like, look at me, look what I can do. Yes, that's how you make friends and influence people, right? All right. Yeah, take your ISN and be like, look at me. Yeah. No, they'll just be like, wow, you're so smart.